Alright, give it a second. See if this is working now. Hello! Can you hear me? Can you see me? Don't worry about the inception. Yep, you hear me? Okay, like OBS just crashed on me right as I started streaming. That hasn't happened before. Cool. Wasn't sure if I could get back into the same stream either, but I guess I can, so okay, awesome. Cool, thanks for being here. Good evening, guys. Happy Sunday evening. We are here to look at army lists as always, and I can now see you in chat as well. So, Nick, Life, RPG, DTM, Captain Rylo. Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so we got 3 lists we're looking at tonight. Tonight's lists are going to be submitted by Captain Rylo, Steel Rain, and Jones3460. Next week, we have Daniel Lindberg, Michael Huff, and Matty Talent. And then the week after that, we have James Fisher, Life RPG, and David. Apparently, I just have first name basis for David. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry the review times have been so long at the moment. We're just doing three lists a week, just until I get a better handle on stuff with the kids. And obviously, a lot of people have been putting in reviews because of the new chapter approved stuff. So there's a lot to get into. I want to say as well, just before we get started, I don't think I'm playing a live game tomorrow night, unfortunately. I always play a live game on Monday, but because everybody in my area was at the GT like the whole weekend playing Warhammer, I guess, I can't seem to find an opponent for tomorrow night. So yeah, probably just chances are I would say at the moment there's a high probability of no game tomorrow night. So I guess you guys get a rest on Monday night. I get a rest as well, and I guess I'll work on some other stuff for Friday's video anyway. So sorry about that. I think it's probably one of the first Monday nights we're going to miss, but is what it is, I guess. I would have been at the GT this weekend, to be fair, if I didn't have to help look after the young kids, right? Cool. So I don't see Steel Rain in the chat. I do see Captain Rylo in the chat, so maybe we'll just start with Captain Rylo's list. Maybe Steel Rain will pop in a few minutes, and I already closed the folder called lists because I'm an idiot. And Jones3460, I don't see you in the chat. If you are in the chat, please give a shout out. And be right back, 1 second. Alright, kids waking up, OBS crashing, anything else can go wrong now. Let's... cool. So, yeah, hopefully nothing else goes wrong. Yeah, Jones, are you in the chat? Not yet, I guess. So, Captain Rylo, let's start with you. Good evening, Harry. How you doing? Cool. Okay, so, looking at army lists, looking at them based on Chapter Approved 2022, and seeing if we can make improvements, give feedback, etc., etc. And the video that I really want to make next for the channel, good evening, Levi. The video I really want to make next is talking about like the new maps from Chapter Approved, right? Because like there's all new secondaries, there's a new sort of portion to all the maps called primary pluses. So I want to dive in to probably every 2,000 point. I'm trying to think how many there would be. Is there like 9 new missions? 9 missions total? Could I make that into one video? Maybe. Maybe that's what I'm going to try and do this week, is look at all of the new missions. I think it's 9. Because it goes like 11, 12, 13, 21, 22, 23, and then 31, 32, 33, right? So it should be 9. I want to look at all 9 and make recommendations for secondaries, or recommendations on things that I would... that would help score points and stuff. And I think it's going to be useful for anyone going to GT or anyone just playing the new missions. Like if you've got a handle on some of the secondaries before you play the game. So that's kind of what I want to focus on this week. So let's have a look at this list. And this is a revised list. And it's 2,000 point. It's a first company list. So it's going to have a lot of Terminators if it's first company. And that's kind of cool. So it's 2,000 point, starting with 8 CP. We have Lieutenant in Phobos Armor, who has the Lord of Deceit trait. He is the icon of the Angel, and he obviously has Hero and Relic of the Chapter. We don't see Lord of Deceit very often, but it's going to let you... I want to say it's going to let you redeploy 3 Phobos units before the first turn. I can't remember the exact wording on Lord of the Deceit. I'm just going to look it up real quick. It's a warlord trait that I've looked at before and I've been interested in, but Lord of the Sea. After both players have deployed their armies... Oh, shit, did I click that? After both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 Phobos units from an army. They can either be put into strategic reserves without spending additional CP. Any of these units can be placed in strategic reserve. Oh, I thought it was you could deploy them. Oh, and redeploy them. So you can redeploy them. And you can only place them, or you can place them in strategic reserve. There was a caveat here. Maybe someone remembers in the FAQ or something like this. Are you still allowed to redeploy them into concealed positions? Can't remember. I've never used it myself, but like if someone could clarify that for me in the chat, that would be super, super useful. And then obviously he's got 3 Incursor squads to make use of the Lord of Deceit, which is cool. Brian says, John, if you had £250 to spend on models, what would you buy? I was thinking about Leviathan Dread and 2 Assault Terminator squads. I mean, Brian, it depends on what you already have, really. But Leviathan Dread and Assault Terminators are good choices. You kind of need to let us know what you have before we advise what you buy. We want them into strategic reserve. Yeah, I mean, it's great to put your Incursors into strategic reserve. It helps a lot with like Nachman data and something. But thanks Chip Hazard, so you can't deploy them into... You can't redeploy them into concealed positions. That's the caveat with that warlord trait. I think it's still pretty strong because you can put them super far forward, and then if they feel unsafe, take them off the table into strategic reserve or bring them back. So I like it. It's not something I see very often. I'm not 100%... Like, I'm not in love with a captain in Phobos armor. Or lieutenant in Phobos armor, rather. I mean, he gets reroll 1s. I guess he's got a master-crafted bolt carbine and a pair of combat blades. Yeah, I mean, he's in just a 3-up save, so... Nothing super exciting about a lieutenant with Phobos armor, I guess. Can he... Yeah, okay, so he's got death from above, so he deep strikes in as well. Okay, so, I mean, you've got that going for you. We then have a Primaris Chaplain on the bike, who everybody is running. Artisan of War, Gift of Foresight, Mantra of Strength, Armor Indomitus, and Angel's Exemplar. So yeah, the survivable Angel Sacrifice style. There will be notes, I guess, at the end, Rylo. So yeah, okay, tons of notes. So we'll read over your notes in a second. And then Elites. We've got... This is something we not normally see. This is 10 Assault Terminators with Lightning Claws. Another 10 Assault Terminators with Lightning Claws. Another 10 Assault Terminators with Lightning Claws. 10 Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws. Wow, okay, I mean, like... kind of doubled down on the Lightning Claws, huh, Rylo? That's like, what? 10 Assault Terminators gives you, like, 20 Lightning Claws, 20 Lightning Claws, 20 Lightning Claws... And then some Storm Shields, but a lot of Lightning Claws. A squad of Eliminators with Quake Bolts. I was going to say, the Quake Bolts totally make sense, because you get so many attacks, you're going to want to get that +1 to hit, of course. You get the Whirlwind to prevent... Overwatch, or Set to Defend, or whatever the opponent plays. You also got Icon of Angel and the Phobos guy, so you're getting to reroll... You get him to reroll charges within the Lieutenant. I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't upgrade this guy to Wise Orator and take like Canticle of Hate as his second litany, so that you could get like the +2 to charges. And what was the other thing to say? Yeah, and I mean, I guess all the squads of Terminators could potentially be combat squadded as well, right? Personally, I kind of like having the Sergeant of the Terminators with the Thunderhammer. And I guess if you had 1 or 2 Thunderhammer guys in each squad, you would get, potentially, if you're getting hit by something really nasty, like, you potentially get a better save, like a 4-up save, or a, you can make their save a bit better with the Thunderhammers. I'm actually kind of interested to know, like, against heavy armor, do Thunderhammers perform better than Lightning Claws for Blood Angels? And if they do, how much better? Brian says he's got 20 Sangre Guard, 10 Death Company, 15 Blade Guard, all the troops and characters, 3 Redemptor Dreads, and a Whirlwind. Yeah, so, I mean, a Leviathan is not a bad choice. The Assault Terminators are certainly not a bad choice, Brian. The Relic Contemptor Dreadnought is also a really good choice. I think armed with like a Cyclone Missile, a Volkite Cannon, and a Chain Fist, I think that's good. The Leviathan Dreadnought's obviously good as well. And then I mean, Terminators I think are really in a strong place as well right now, because there's so many 2 damage weapons, so Terminators get a good advantage from this. We also have 8 CP in this list. Kept waiting on YouTube to give me an alert for your stream and it never came, says Benjamin. I'm sorry, I only set up the stream like 10 minutes before I get on. Today's kind of been busy with the kids. Alright, so this is 990 points. You can keep all these Terminators in reserve. That makes sense, because they're less than half of your army. Yeah, I suppose the only way you could do that is to take like the 3rd Terminator. You'd have to take 1 Terminator squad that is like 5-man, and then do some shenanigans around there. It's kind of interesting, I guess. You do pay 10 points for the Thunderhammer and the Storm Shield, but like sometimes I feel like you can get a lot of value out of that Storm Shield. Good evening, Steel Rain. Don't Lightning Claws come with automatic wounds rerolls to wound? They do indeed, Crimson Jacket, and because Blood Angels get +1 to wound when you're charged, or if you are charged, against Toughness 8 stuff, Lightning Claws actually still wound 50% of the time, because although we're Strength 4, we get +1 to wound, so we wound 33% of the time, but then we reroll 66% of the misses, and hit another 33% of the time, which actually works out as exactly 50%. So Lightning Claws, even into Toughness 8 as a Blood Angel, will wound 50% of the time with the rerolls, which is legitimately pretty strong. I'm just trying to think how it compares to hammers that would wound Toughness 8 on 3s, I guess, on the charge. And it's interesting, I suppose, because hammers are like 3 damage each, right? Doing a foray into Scotch, bought some Glenlivet 15 French oak cask. Oh, nice. You definitely should do a foray into Scotch. That's a good point. You don't have any teleport homers here. And I think teleport homers are pretty useful in Terminators, especially if you drop down a squad of 10 Lightning Claw guys. Let's say you don't combat squad them for whatever reason. Even if you do combat squad them, if you drop them down and they're stuck in a quarter of the board, they only do move 5 inches. They're kind of slow. The teleport homer can help a lot. Assuming a normal tank profile for a Toughness 7 3+ tank takes about 17.8 damage from Thunderhammers and 10.8 damage from Lightning Claws. Are you including the +1 to wound there from charging DTM? Do you gain extra attack with Lightning Claws over hammers? You would indeed. You would actually get 2 more attacks per model, right? Because each Lightning Claw gives you an additional attack. So if a Thunderhammer Terminator on the charge gets 3, a Lightning Claw guy on the charge gets 5. But I mean, the maximum damage a Lightning Claw could do would be 5, whereas a 3-hit Thunderhammer could potentially do 9. But obviously, there's more randomness there in the Thunderhammer, right? Because it's -1 to hit, and you know. All right, so let's talk about this. Greetings and welcomes, brother, to the athlete named First Blood Angels painting competition on the channel. Oh, why has this got my text in there? Okay, I must have been... I don't know why I've got a sentence of mine. That's random. Okay. Right, the intent with this list is to initially now reserve 990 points to the Terminators, just on the maximum 50% of the points. Makes sense. I may or may not combat squad, some or all of them. I guess, yeah, you're right, it would make 2 of the last units, and also 3 of the most expensive units become a perfect pick. I then, during deployment, use my incursors aggressively near the opponent's deployment zone in an effort to distort their deployment, with the Lieutenant, Chaplain, Whirlwind all hidden by obscuring terrain in my deployment zone, as can the Eliminators, which can move, shoot, move, because of the Instigator Bolt carbines. The next step is to situationally use Lord of the Seat Warlord trait to put my 3 units of incursors into Strategic Reserve, and Wings of Fire to do the same for my Vanguard Veterans in turn 1. Okay, so basically... the only units you'll have on the board is the Whirlwind, the Eliminators, and the 2 characters. Ballsy. If they have enough indirect fire to kill it, you could lose the game pretty early. And the next key to this is the Death from Above Codex Secondary, as I now have 7 units to bring into the field that become active for the secondary. Death from Above. I never use Death from Above, the Codex Secondary. What is Death from Above? Is that the Space Marine Codex, or is that the Blood Angels Codex? Let me look. Score 2 victory points at the end of the turn if the units were destroyed by Blood Angels units from your army that were set up in the battlefield in their reinforcement step. If any of those units were a character, you score 3 victory points. Okay, so I've never used this. I guess, I mean, if you're going to start, what would that be like? You're literally going to start 315 plus 990 plus 290. I can't do 315 plus 290 plus 990. 315 plus 290 plus, what do you say, 990? So you're going to start 1600 points of your army off the board. Yeah, okay, that's crazy. If I wish, I can use guerrilla tactics to remove the lieutenant to utilize a reroll or to charge alongside a batch of units. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could use guerrilla tactics as well to take the lieutenant off the board as well. I have a 21-inch advance on my chaplain with a 2 CP Canticle of Hate. I don't think you pick Canticle of Hate. You put down Mantra of Strength of your litany, and it's come up a few times, Captain Rylo, that if the chaplain's rule says, like, the chaplain on a bike, I'll show you this, chaplain on a bike, his rule says, Turbo Boost, each time this model advances, do not make an advance roll, instead, until the end of the phase, add 6 inches to the movement characteristic of this model. I know we get +1 to advance and charge, but it's advance and charge rolls, whereas this kind of like supersedes that and just says it replaces it. So I believe you only get 20 inches. You don't get 21 inches. It does seem kind of strange that you wouldn't get that extra inch, but I think the way rules as written are, you would only get a 20-inch advance, right? Turn 2 and 3, I can delete a large portion of my own forces, having wasted any shooting they have because there's no targets. The big Overwatch threat or interrupt threat can be suppressed by the Whirlwind and the Quake Bolts. Fury the First and Descent of the Angels make me hit on 2s across a lot of my force with Lightning Claws that lean hard against the current meta, making Transhuman and -1 damage redundant. I guess that's fair to say. It'll be hard to work about 3 squads of Terminators from the mid-game and deny me to the last, and Death from Above should be maxed out each game for 30 secondary points on my terms, and I can retrieve Natman data in all 4 table quadrants if I stagger the entry of the Phobos troops. How are you getting 30 points from Death from Above? Because Death from Above says, score 2 victory points at the end of the turn if enemy units were destroyed by Blood Angels units in your army that were set up in the battlefield in any of your movement phases. Oh right. Okay, I didn't actually fucking realise this. So, once they've deep striked in, They're just scoring points every turn every time they kill something. Wow, I could have used this before and actually scored a lot of points. If you're gonna reserve like Sangre Guard, Terminators, and a few other things, I guess you can score a lot of points this way, huh? I thought it was going to be the same turn they arrived in, but no. Okay. Mathhammer with Savage Shock Assault and Savage Echoes on 10 Terminators, Veterans with Wound rerolls, wounding anything on 4s. Anything toughness 7 or lower is scary, especially if you're hitting on 2s due to Fury of the First or Quake Bolts in Descent of the Angels. They delete most things, and I have 4 units that can do that from reserve. Up to 8 at half-powered combat squads, and the Chaplain can put reroll aura for hits and Angel Sacrifice into the heart of the board. Makes sense. I've seen you make huge swings in primary points scoring mid to late game, so if I'm charging units into objectives making use of OBSEC, Wings of Fire, and Guerrilla Tactics with my 5 Phobos units, I should be able to pick up primaries in turn 4 or 5 push. You can always get the Whirlwind and Chaplain to tag them as well. I do actually wonder if you're missing something not having Rites of War here. It's a little bit sad that you only got those 2 characters there. Like, it might even be an option to, I know we don't ever see it, but like a Terminator Ancient with a banner, just so you've got Rites of War, might be actually really decent. I mean, you only got 2 characters. I think having 3 characters is totally fine. I wonder if there's anything else you could put. Yeah, I mean, like a Terminator Ancient might actually be good in this list. The idea is based around you can't hurt me till what you can't hit, and having to fight on their terms. Only weakness I can see is the lack of D3 weapons, but I really don't think there's a need given that 70 lightning claws with our amazing chapter tactic. 70 lightning claws, because each Terminators get 2 attacks, 2 more for charging, and then 2 more for lightning claws. Is that right? Why do you think the Terminators get 70 attacks? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't typically run that many Terminators with lightning claws. Data sheets, Terminator assault squads. Yeah, they get 2 attacks. 2 lightning claws gives them 4 attacks. Savage Echo Shock Assault gives them 2 more. So 6 attacks per model. So a 10-man squad would get 61 attacks, right? 6 per model and 7 on the sergeant. So 6 9s and 1 7. I mean, 61 lightning claws if you're hitting on 2s is still pretty fucking scary. I do agree with that. I've also considered dropping 2 Terminators in 1 of the 3 squads and 1 Storm Shield for a veteran paying 2 CP to add a Chapter Champion with Martial Exemplar for the initial Deep Strike list. So I have 2 characters that buff reroll charges that I can bring in from board edges, which I guess is okay as well. Increase the dependability of the reliability of Deep Strike. With Chapter Tactic and rerolls, the odds are better for most in the Chaplain key areas. It's worth 2 CP to potentially get multiple units, only needing 7s with free rerolls to get in. As I can get Combat Squad, I can get multiple 5-man units per game, and I have the chance to retailer a list for whatever is in front of me. Yeah, I think I agree with, you know what? Can the Chapter Champion or the Company Champion, it's this Warlord trait that is, it's not his Warlord trait, it is his Warlord trait that lets you reroll the charges, isn't it? I forget what it's called. Martial Exemplar, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so I'd probably be tempted to do that, actually, because you're really dependent on reroll charges here. Like, 8-inch charges with rerolls. I was doing the math last night on the painting stream. It's 65%, right? So if you bring in, let's say, 3 5-man squads of Terminators each turn, because you could do that, you could bring in 3 in turn 2 and 3 in turn 3. You're looking at 1 squad is definitely going to fail, and that includes rerolls on all of them, right? So you're going to want rerolls on all of them. you're definitely going to want rerolls and all, as many charges as you can get. So the company champion actually sounds like a better idea than my Terminator Ancient idea. The company champion might be good though with like the Visage of Death, right? Because if you're charging into an objective with 10 obsec terminator or 10 non-obsec terminators, taking away the enemy obsec might be really important there, because if you can take away their obsec, then you're probably going to win the objective because you get 10 terminators. And like you said, 10 terminators are going to be very difficult to kill. I really like a Thunderhammer on the Sergeant. I feel like you're wasting, because the Sergeant gets that extra attack, right? So, because the Sergeant gets that extra attack, I feel like having the Thunderhammer on the Sergeant is really good. And I guess the thing about having the Sergeant with the Thunderhammer as well is it would give you one model in each squad that is just a little bit more durable. And sometimes it's nice to just have the ability to take a 4-up save, I guess. Like, if you really need to make some saves or something. And remember, if the Sergeant's in cover, he can ignore -2 AP. So, like, you can save for days on 2s at -2 AP on the Sergeant if he's being shot. If the squad's being shot and they're in cover. So, I feel like you'd get a decent amount of value with the Sergeant having a Thunderhammer. Because against, like, enemy characters and something, like, I use Thunderhammers on my Chapter Master, and I use Thunderhammers. I've been using more Thunderhammers in the last few games for sure. But the thing that I like about Thunderhammers is, like, if they fail 2 hits from a Thunderhammer, you know, like, that kills most characters, right? That's 6 damage. Most characters can't survive, like, you know, most 150 point characters aren't going to survive against 2 Thunderhammer hits. If you're typically using Quake Bolts and Fury of the First and you've got 5 attacks, you're probably going to get like 3 or 4 hits. You're probably going to be wounding on 2s, so you're going to make them take like 3 or 4 saves from the Thunderhammer. It feels like a surefire way to just, you know, kill a character, or just do a bit more damage against like a Dreadnought or some armor or something like that, right? I think it's well worth the 10, like, because people always ask, like, if we're going to do a squad of Terminators, do we take Thunderhammer on the Sergeant, or do we take Lightning Claws on the Sergeant? I always say take Thunderhammer on the Sergeant. I think it's really good. 30 Terminators with nowhere to go, or people walking away from them while shooting. Yeah, I mean, 61 attacks hitting on 2s, I think that's right. Not enough anti-screen shooting. Better one squad of Terminators with Stormbolters, says Highland Phoenix. I mean, that could be a problem as well. You could take 10 Terminators with Stormbolters as an option as well here, I suppose. You could have... Your shooting is very lackluster. If the enemy are able to screen you out with chaff, then that could be a little bit of a problem. But I think I like that idea, actually, having one unit of Terminators with Stormbolters and probably Chain Fists. I mean, that would be the way to forget about the Thunderhammers, I suppose. If you want to focus down on the Lightning Claws, do Lightning Claws on 2 squads of Assault Terminators, and then take 1 squad with, like, Stormbolters and Chain Fists, right? So it means that if you run into enemy armor, well, you get Chain Fists that do flat 3 damage to vehicles. You also potentially have a 10-man Stormbolter squad, which gives you, like, 40 bolter shots? 40 bolter shots, again, with Fury of the First will kill a lot of, like, Poxwalkers or any, you know, Chaos Cultists or whatever chaff you might end up in. And Auspex Scan is a real thing as well. So Auspex Scan with a squad of Terminators that have 40 bolter shots is going to be legitimately strong as well. What other people are saying? I don't think a Sanguinary Priest would be good in this list. You couldn't even put them in Assault Doctor in turn 2 because the Terminators wouldn't be on the board in the command phase, right? You're 100% right. So that is one slight weakness. That's where maybe Stormbolt or Terminators would come in, because on turn 2 they get -1 AP, right? So you would have 40 bolter shots at -1 AP. You'd be able to clear out anything that and set yourself up for those turn 3 charges. Then I'm fine with not having Thunderhammers if you get 10. If you get 10 with Chain Fist, right? Because I think I ran Chain Fists in the last GT I played in, and whenever they make the charge, like against, for example, like against Grey Knights or something, Grey Knights, Nemesis Dread Knights don't have -1 damage, so Chain Fists just rock them. But yeah, this list is... I actually don't dislike this list at all. I think you have a small concern if you could get tabled by certain enemies. Like if you're playing against Tau and they've got... What did I play against Tau? They had like 3 Storm Surges. Like, you could, if you take that much units off the table, you could potentially get tabled. I also really like Terminator teleport homers on Terminator squads. I think Terminator squads are so slow. I think they drop down and they kill things, but then they can get isolated in board corners or quadrants or whatever because they're slow. I think I would make a change on that, and I like the idea of you're putting so much reliability on charges from Deep Strike here. And people like Reziel will flame me for putting too much reliability or too many units into Deep Strike for charges. And I'm talking like I put like sometimes 3 or 4 units in for Deep Strike charges. So you're literally potentially looking at like 8, 9, 10, 11. You're going to need 11 Deep Strike charges through the game, so you get so much riding on those Deep Strike charges. Whatever you can do to make them more reliable is going to be important. That's why I think Mantra of Strength, Canticle of Hate is going to be better here. And also, I think that, I was going to say a Terminator Ancient or something with Rights of War, but I think the Company Champion with Martial Exemplar and spend a CP to give him... you might not need Visage of Death, but it's an option. I mean, if you're spending the 1 CP to give them the Martial Exemplar, maybe that's fine. You're going to need your CP in this list, right? Flame me, it's not my intention. Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't mean it's flaming Reziel, but I get what you're saying, right? Like, Deep Strike charges are not reliable. 65% charge. Well, I mean, I guess I proved it last week. So I had a 65% charge rate because every charge I made was 8 inches with a reroll, right? And only 2 out of the 4 happened. So in this list, you're requiring 11 charges. So just imagine, because there's a swing there, it's a dice game. So in some games, you're only going to make 5 or 6 of those 11 charges when your units come in. So anything you can do to make sure those units have rerolls or +2 to charge is going to be the most important thing. What about swapping out one of the Assault Terminators for Shooty Terminators with Cyclones? You can try Fury of the First to ignore -1 from Deep Strike. I mean, the Cyclone Missile Launcher is fine, Harry. I've run them on Relic Contemptors. I kind of think they're costly, like 2 crack missiles. They're okay. I wouldn't say it's huge. I've also run Assault Cannon on the Shooting Terminators as well, but I honestly think that, Shooting Terminators, I think you just want them to arrive in turn 2 when you're in Tactical Doctrine, get that -1, and you want to pepper the shit out of something with Stormbolters. And that's really all the Shooting Terminators do. But you have Chain Fists on them, so at that point they become a very killy unit. And Terminators with Chain Fists kill things just fine, trust me. I was in a GT with them where I made it to the top table, and every game those Terminators with Chain Fists, even if there's only 1 or 2 of them left, they'll still do damage. It comes back to that thing I was saying earlier, where if you've got a couple of Thunderhammer hits, you'll usually end up killing a character. Chain Fists are kind of in the same position. A Terminator Chaplain with Icon would be great to help those charges. Make him the master and pay the 1 CP to chant the litany for +2 charge. I mean, that would be good, says Levi. I guess you'd have to give up probably your Primaris Chaplain on a bike. Or would you? You could run 2 Chaplains. Might be a better option. Just run a Terminator Chaplain with... Yeah, it might be a better option, actually. Just run a Terminator Chaplain with Canticle of Hate and just bring him down and pay the CP to make sure that it goes off. And then... Because you're going to have to pay the CP for it to go off anyway on your other Chaplain, right? So just have the Chaplain arrive from Deep Strike. It's going to give you a bit more flexibility, because you can place the Chaplain in a very strategic position, so you get 2 or 3 other Terminator units within range, and then they can all charge. Highland Phoenix is saying Centurion Devastator squads, but I don't think Centurion Devastator squads are strong right now. Why are you thinking they're strong, Highland? They don't have core, right? Which I think is possibly an issue. I wonder if taking 10 shooting Terminators and combat squadding a unit of 5 with 2 Cyclones to hold your battlefield and pop transports could be an option. Yeah, I think like, this is good, but you're going to get countered by some things. And I think, based on everything you said, Rylo, you kind of already know that you're going to get countered by some things. So I guess... yeah. There's probably too much reliance on deep strike, so you need to have something, and this is one of the reasons that I ran shooting Terminators in the GT, because when you arrive stuff from deep strike, they're not always going to make the charge. Terminators, if they don't make the charge, are still okay, right, because they're really durable. If you put them in cover, you can get like a 1-up save. So I guess the answer there is if you bring some with bolters, then they can do a little bit of clear as well. So if you want to go heavy on the first company, I don't dislike it, but yeah, I guess a lot of points to be made there. Okay, you got 3 Phobos units, and you got the redeploy. I guess, and then the Whirlwind, so like 8.5 for OBSEC. Anti-horde infantry, and I guess this is going to be your problem, because I usually talk about shooting out anti-hordes. You get the Whirlwind, which can do, I would say like, the Whirlwind isn't there to do damage. It'll kill 1 or 2 models. Maybe if you're super lucky against like Poxwalkers, it can kill 5. But like the Whirlwind doesn't really kill models. And the Eliminators can maybe kill a few models again, and that's really it for shooting, especially if all your other units are off the board. So anti-horde infantry has to be really low, right? Like you just 5 even maybe is too high for this list. I'm talking about I'm killing units that I need to be able to not waste my time charging with shooting. Just don't have that. Anti-vehicle monster effectiveness. So we already know that each squad gets 61 lightning claws. I guess the Vanguard veterans will get slightly less. I think they would, with their 7-8 storm shields, they would get like 53. So potentially in a single turn, if everything makes a charge, you'd have about 220 lightning claw attacks. Alright, so I mean, it's hard to say how. I mean, we know lightning claws wound toughness 8 on 4s. So if you get 220 of them and they're hitting on 2s, I guess that's like 180 hits. Sorry, they don't wound on 4s, but they wound 50% of the time because the rerolls. So you get like 90. You could get 90 wounds of lightning claw damage just in a turn. Even more if you get the chaplain in range of rerolls. You've got Quake Bolts in there, so yeah, I mean, I guess 100 and something lightning claws feels like it could kill a lot, right? I'd say like 9.5. I mean, with that many lightning claws, it does make me wonder if you even need the Thunderhammers that I was talking about earlier. But like, I guess that's probably not the problem with this list. The problem is that you can't clear screens. So if the opponent screens you with shit models that they don't care about, you know, like if you're playing an orc player, when I played against the orc buggies lists, they sat all their buggies at the back and they just put like commandos in front of them, and commandos cost them like nothing, like 40 points for 5 commandos or something like that, and they just pepper them across the whole front of the battlefield so you can't get to the buggies. In that case, this list would have a horrific time, because you have to drop down, you'd have to try and make a charge on all these commandos. They don't even care if the commandos die, because they've got more in reserve. They'll just fall the buggies back a little bit more and then pop down more commandos. So it's like you're going to have to spend 2 or 3 turns trying to get to those buggies, and There's buggy. I know that Terminators are survivable. They're not that survivable, and that you cannot. Like Rucker trucks are just horrendous. What do they get? Like 3d6 shots per Rucker truck. They can run 3 of them, so it's like 9d6 shots. They're strength 5. They're -3. They're 2 damage each. Yeah, I mean they'll kill like 96 is what, like about 30 shots. They're hitting on 4s, so it's 15. They're wounding on 3s, so it's like 10 saves at -3, so 10 5-up saves. Yeah, I mean the Rucker trucks can potentially kill 5 Terminators a turn, and you won't be able to get to them for 2, 3, maybe even 4 turns, right? And that's just one squad. Rucker trucks is 270 points. They're gonna have like 3 more like scrap jets. They're gonna have like 3 more. I forget the Melta buggies, what they're called. But yeah, I've only fought those Melta buggies once, and that was at that GT. Scrap jets. What were they called? And was it the Snaz wagons? No. Dragsters, yeah, the dragsters. They're nuts as well. Heavy D3 rockets, 3 damage. So each rocket is killing a Terminator. Again, they can have 3 of these, 24 inches. They can sit behind stuff. They also have their custom shock rifles. They're crazy good in melee as well. I was surprised at how good these orc buggies are in melee. You know, like +2 strength, so strength 7, -2 damage. On an 85 point thing. Yeah, they're nuts. Okay, so mobility, I guess. The list is not as mobile as I would like it be. Teleport homers would help. Terminators are slow. Again, it all comes down to screening. On some armies that don't have screening, you're just going to run right over them. Like, this list will do great. On other armies, I worry, I guess. I had a crazy tough game against orcs at a GT who was running just that. It was like 3 Rucker trucks, 3 scrap jets, 3 dragsters, and then he was also running the planes. And I guess in this case, against the planes, the only unit that you've got that can really fight against aircraft is the Vanguard veterans, right? Because Terminators can't charge aircraft, and Cursors can't charge aircraft. So it's just going to be your squad of Vanguard vets. Jägerbomb, thank you for the $5. What do you think new Blood Angels units will come soon? Eliminators, bolt, snipers, or Las Fusel better? I have 9 to build. I think for Eliminators, I prefer Las Fusels. Las Fusels would actually be better in this list as well, but I think you want to go Instigator, bolt, carbine on the Sergeant, and then you want to go 2 Las Fusels, which makes it 85 points, because the move, shoot, move is the strong part of Eliminators. Someone actually won a GT. The video I did like a month ago for the GT winning list with Blood Angels, he ran 2 squads of Eliminators. Both squad was Sergeant with the carbine and the two guys with the Las Fusels, and every turn you just moved them out of cover, shot all 4 Las Fusels, and moved them back into cover. So essentially you just basically get 4 Las cannons that hit on 3s because you moved them, but are -3 damage, and the enemy can't fight back because you just move them in and out of cover each turn because of the Instigator bolt carbine, right? And Quake bolts on the Eliminator Sergeant is good as well, I guess. They're only there for the Quake bolts. I think that you know the point I made about aircraft. There are aircraft in the meta right now. Admech are running aircraft. Orcs are running aircraft. Maybe having a couple of Las Fusels here would actually be kind of useful against aircraft as well. If the Vanguard veterans are your only means of fighting the aircraft, because you've got nothing else that can even. I mean, you can shoot them with some bolters, I guess, but like, what I was trying to think, the list that I played at the tournament, the Orc list that had, like, the Orc aircraft are no joke as well, aren't they? I actually forget what they're called. The Daka jets, that's the one. So they're 100 points. They've got 12 wounds. They get toughness 6, so you're going to take all day to kill them with bolters. 4 up save. I think they're -1 to hit. When you try and hit them, you can't declare a charge on them unless you fly. And each one, I think, can have like 6 super shooters, which is like DACA 36. Strength 6 -1, 1 damage. It's a lot for 120 points. They can run 2 of them, obviously. So if you come up against a list like that, I think your list is going to get a little unstuck. I don't dislike your list, I really don't, but like, I think it's one of these lists, like, you're never going to win a tournament with this list. You'll beat some armies, you'll run right over them, and other armies, you'll just come unstuck. Embrace the Vanguard Veteran spam, says Brew and Biscuits. Replace the Terminators with Vanguard Veterans with 9 and cause Storm Shields and the Thunder Hammer and the Sergeant for 309 points. Yeah, I mean, if you had 2 squads of Vanguard Veterans and 2 squads of Terminators, I'd probably feel more confident with that. And I do like the Thunderhammer idea on the Sergeant again, making use of that extra attack. So you've got the fight last. You don't have denies. I mean, if you're going to combat squad the units and the Phobos, you've got plenty of units for actions. You don't have any 3 damage weapons, but you do have like shitloads of lightning claws. So there's a trade-off there. You got 8 CP, but we really think we want to spend 1 more to get another reroll charge in there. And we don't have any protection against mortal wounds. Which is what it is, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to give it like an 8. I don't, like I said, I don't dislike the list. I like Terminators. I think it would be a fun list to play. I just think there's some armies that are going to be difficult for you to deal with right now with this list. And I haven't played against orcs like that on my stream because Andrew, when I was playing against Andrew's orcs, Andrew was spamming the same buggies, right? I think Andrew's list was like 9 rocket trucks and 8 scrap jets, and they nerfed that because it was basically broken. I beat it every time we played it, but it was kind of broken. It was just too strong. But they did, the list that I played at the GT was like a month after they changed that. So he had, like I said, he had 3 different units of 3 orc buggies, and then he had 2 of the orc planes, and then he just had a ton of chaff in front of it. Like, I think he had commandos, multiple squads. I think he had orcs, some of the orcs on those squigs as well that do mortal wounds when they charge. And all the orcs that were in front of the buggies weren't really there to do damage. They were just there to stop me getting to the buggies, because the buggies have a ridiculous amount of shooting, right? For how much points you pay for them. Yeah, they're kind of swingy, but I had to fight tooth and nail to get to those buggies, and if you can't get to the buggies, then it takes 216 bolter shots to take down a DACA jet, by the way, so it's not viable for anyone that's considering it. Yeah, some secondary plans just disintegrate when you see certain lists. Yeah, they absolutely do. Do you think Space Marines 2.0 will see Outriders and Suppressors get 6-man units? I don't know what we're going to see in Space Marines 2.0 Jaeger Bomb. I think we want to just see like a Primaris Vanguard veteran or something like that. Like, Outriders for me aren't great right now because of the changes where like engage on all fronts needs 3 models, so you only take the 3, you lose 1, you've lost it. I also think they're overcosted at 50 points. And Suppressors, to me, seem really strange, right? Like, when Suppressors got announced, everyone was super excited. It was like Space Marines with autocannons, and then nothing really ever came from the Suppressors. So I'm hesitant to say what they're going to change in 2.0, but I think that I think we're probably going to see new models, because, let's face it, at the moment they always like to push new stuff. Like, every new army is getting new stuff, and sometimes they're updating the existing stuff, but all too often it feels like they ignore the existing stuff to just push the new stuff. If we got like Primaris Vanguard vets, I guess that would be a step in the right direction, but who knows. So yeah, Captain Rylo, I mean, I've given it 38.5. I mean, that's not bad, but I think there's lists that you're going to struggle into. But in your meta, that could be super strong. Nobody screens anything with chaff units. Everyone's got big, expensive units, and you want to rip them apart with lightning claws. Go for it. Enjoy it. Everyone dislikes suppressors. I know. Could they maybe do the whirlwind job? Maybe with mastercrafted 3 damage sergeant. Do you know what? I tried to run suppressors, Zardogs. I used them in like 2 or 3 battles. The problem is that you end up inevitably having to move the suppressors, and if you move them, only hit on 4s, right? You only get 9 shots, so you hit on 4s, so you get 4.5 hits, give or take. So let's round it up, say you get 5 hits. You're probably going to wound on 3s, so you make the enemy take, let's say, 3 saves at -1. I mean, like, whoop-de-doo, 3 saves at -1 for a 100-point unit. I would say most enemies on -1 are going to make like 1 or something or 2 of their saves. So you're basically saying you're paying 100 points to do 2 damage. I don't know how you make suppressors work. I like the unit. I bought 6 of them myself, but I just don't know how you make them work. I think if you compare them to Inceptors are just so much better, right? Like a 3-man squad of Bolter Inceptors gets like 18 shots guaranteed. So it's double the number of shots. You can make them hit on 2s. You can also have toughness 5. You have 3 wounds per model. You can charge. You can bog enemy units down. Suppressors prevent Overwatch from infantry models, and that's free, sure. But I guess, like, they don't do any damage. And I guess if you want to take a unit that does no damage and stops Overwatch, then I just think the Whirlwind's a better choice, because the Whirlwind can suppress everything. And obviously the fight last is kind of one of the most important things. Do you think a Vindicator Assassin for 100 points could do better than the suppressors? Another thing I'm supposed to say about the suppressors is Eliminators at 85 points. Eliminators in cover on a 1-up save. They have a better ballistic skill. They can move, shoot, move. They can They can ignore Lookout Sir and the Sergeant. They can have 3 damage, -3 las cannons, and they're like 15 points cheaper, right? Suppressors, I've tried them and they're anti-Tau. I mean, if the Tau if it's infantry, I guess. But I actually think Overwatch and Tau has got a lot. It's been nerfed a lot, right? Like, Tau's strength now is not as much in their Overwatch, as in they're just really good at shooting, I think. Like, when I played against Andrew's Tau, yeah, he maybe killed a couple of things in Overwatch, but the strength of the Overwatch was the greater good. It's not... I don't think it's as much of an issue as it was now. Alright, we gotta get into the next list, because otherwise we'll be here all night. Alright, Steel Rain. Hey Commander, trying to find new ideas since Chapter 2020 approved dropped. Dropped the Whirlwinds, haven't needed it as much, gone back to Infiltrators for backfield. Librarian is back, gone with a cheap and cheerful Smash Librarian to do Null Zone. Thought process of here is to do Null Zone and to do something useful at the same time. He maxes out doing 7 attacks, Strength 8, D3+1 going with Imperium Sword instead of Mastery for point saving, and giving him a free charge reroll to make Null Zone's range better. The other idea is a double Death Company squad. One is 5 hammers, does regular Death Company things. The other is 10 chain swords and 6 infernal pistols. The either or neither Forlorn Fury is pretty good. Since I'm already running Astaroth, Astaroth has the option of both Massive Doom and Recitation of Focus. That's +1 to hit with shooting. Assuming in this thing they get 3 inches before charging, they would kill all 5 of those pesty Custode bikes, translating 2 average 5 damage infernal pistol shots and 13 wounds in melee. Without melter range, or the +1s, they kill 4. I have to go down to 2 times Sanguinary Guard squads because of elite squads, which is sad, but I think Death Company units good enough to warrant the trade. Yeah, I mean, I guess you watched my video this week on Death Company, and Death Company are a lot better than they were before, I think. And I'm not, like, I like what I'm running at the moment, which is a squad of Terminators, a squad of Vanguard Vets, and a squad of Sanguinary Guard. I'm not really going to change that myself yet. I might change it, not yet. But Death Company are in my mind as potential for the future. Like, I guess if I was going to run Death Company, would it mean that I want to drop one of my dreadnoughts? There is a possibility there. I haven't played enough games since Chapter Approved 2022 came out, like 2 or 3. And every game I've been playing is against like some skew list. Like, it's been against like the 3 Storm Surge Tau, the 2 Catan Necrons, the 10 Imperial Knights or something. So if I get a few more games, I'll figure it out. But I think it's an important point. Anyway, let's talk about this list. So it's Astaroth, who's the warlord, who has Soul Warden. He has Litany of Hate and Recantation of Focus, and Mantra of Strength. Did I miss something up here? No? Alright, yeah. Oh yeah, because he gets Massive Doom for free. Okay, I'm just going to put it in there, so... Forget. So, does Astaroth rule literally he gets Massive Doom plus 2 more? I haven't run Astaroth much, if at all, I guess. In 9th. I ran him a lot when he used to be 110 points. Him and Lamartez used to be 110 points. I ran him all the time at 110 points. Yeah, okay, so he knows 3 litanies essentially, because he knows Massive Doom as well as these. Okay, cool. We then have our Librarian, who's the hero of Chapter, Imperium Sword, Mastercrafted 4 sacks, Jump Pack, Null Zone, Might of Heroes, Infernal Pistol. It's a little bit sad he's not the Chief Librarian, I guess, so you don't get that +1. And it's a little sad he doesn't have a sword, because the sword's obviously -3 and the axe is just -2. So that feels like that would combo better with Null Zone, but overall, I mean, I guess it's fine. The idea, I guess, would be that other units get the big bonus from Null Zone and maybe not as much himself. And then a Sanguinary Priest with the jump back, and I guess there's no reason to upgrade him to Selfless Healer in that. You're just bringing him for Assault Doctrine and 6-up Shrugs, really, right? Okay. We then have 2 squads of Incursors and the squad of Infiltrators for the backfield, which is totally fine. Death Company with Thunderhammers and Jump Packs. Death Company with Chainswords and Infernal Pistols and Bolt Pistols. Sanguinary Guard, 4 axes, 3 swords. Another Sanguinary Guard, 4 axes, 3 swords. I guess that makes sense because you've got Null Zone, so why would you not want the additional minus from the swords? You still got 2 Relic Contemptors in there. Twin Volkite Coverings, the Chain Fist, the Plasma Blasters, and the Cyclone Missile Launchers. The Chain Fist costs 5, and the Plasma Blasters cost 5 as well, is that right? I don't really run the Plasma Blasters myself. Joseph, thank you so much for becoming a member. I think that's a new membership for the first time. I appreciate that, Joseph. Much appreciated. Thank you. What am I doing? I'm looking for a relic. Relic Contemptor. I was going to say Relic Leviathan. No, it's not. Relic Contemptor. Plasma Blaster. Where is it? Contemptor Plasma Blaster, 5 points. Okay, so it's just basically a Assault 2 Plasma Gun, right? Yeah, it's basically like a Plasma Pistol Plasma Gun, I guess. Take a mortal wound, but potentially supercharge for 2 damage. Okay. So I think the Volkite Dreadnought with, the Chain Fist, the Cyclone Missile Launcher, and the Twin Covering is legitly good. I was actually kind of thinking now, though, like, would this Dreadnought be really good with just a multi-melta as well? Forget about the Plasma Blaster. Let's just say you were running... If you're trying to keep it cheap, right? A Relic Contemptor running a multi-melta, a Chain Fist, I guess it would be a Stormbolter, and the Cyclone Missile Launcher is like 175 points. Because you would save 5 points by not having the Plasma Blaster, you would save 5 points by not having the Culverin. Okay, sorry, yeah, so 180. At 180, I'm kind of looking at that thinking, like, I kind of like it. It kind of makes me wonder why Relic Redemptors went up to 195 points for kind of their default loadout, but I guess for whatever reason they felt Redemptors were really strong. I have a love-hate relationship with the Redemptors, I think. Oh, is Joseph your other account, Rylo? But no, thank you so much. I appreciate it. There wouldn't be a show if you guys didn't submit army lists, right? Yeah, I like the Relic Contemptors. I like them in this sort of configuration with the twin Volkite covering. That's what I've been running myself. And GW height Redemptors because of casual play data. Oh, really? A lot of people run Redemptors. I don't think they needed a hike, but anyway, I guess Relic Contemptors got a hike as well. Maybe they didn't. The Volkites probably did need a little bit of a hike, even though the Volkites are a bit strange in that, like, some lists are really effective, some lists are terrible in. You know, if you're playing against like an army that has a lot of 2-up saves, after turn 1, the Volkites kind of just fall off and become useless, except like you're just hoping for those mortal wounds, and sometimes if those mortal wounds fail you, they fail you. I've had times where a single Volkite gun has done 5 mortal wounds. I've had times when 2 Volkite cannons have done no mortal wounds. I made a video about the swinginess of mortals a little while ago, and that's something I would have preferred them to change. I would have preferred them to leave the points cost of the Volkite, but like cap the number of mortal wounds it could do. I think that would have been a much better solution than just throwing points at them. But anyway, both the Relic Contemptors are good at, you know, these are obviously good at killing things in melee, killing things at range, being a threat if they ever get into melee. 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard, pretty decent. 2 squads of Death Company. We looked at them this week. Death Company, if you didn't watch my Death Company video, you should probably go watch it. They are legitly good now for the points. I mean, they weren't bad before, but like even stronger. And Incursors and Infiltrators and all this is fine. The one thing that I want to see, Steel Rain, actually, because you're quite a veteran player and you do a lot of army lists and you've got 9 CP, why no Quake Bolts? I mean, the only character you've really got that could carry the Quake Bolts is the Sanguinary Priest. If you've not made the Sanguinary Priest the chief apothecary and you're not super worried about him surviving, would Quake Bolts not be an option here? Like getting +1 to hit on Death Company hammers, Death Company pistols, Sanguinary Guard, even the Dreadnoughts if they end up charging might be an option. I know you can Massive Doom one of the units, or you can Recantation of Focus like one of the units, I guess. Massive Doom the other unit. I actually kind of forget what Massive Doom does. Let's just read it. It's you roll a, if it's inspiring, pick a core character, roll a d6. On a 1 model and unit is destroyed, add 1 to the hit roll to its melee hit roll. On a 2 to 5, add 1, and on a 6, it's add 1 and also gain a 4-up invulnerable save, which is super nice, I guess. It's a little annoying that this used to stack, or sorry, when you used to roll a 1, it used to just take a mortal wound and used to be able to shrug it usually. So it's a little sad that you just kill one of your own models if you roll a 1, but I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? +1 to hit on like your Sanguinary Guard is probably worth losing 1 model. Probably the same on the Death Company. Maybe you don't need Quake Bolts. Maybe Astrath is going to do all your buffing and you're not going to need it. I think Quake Bolts is overrated. I use a lot of CP in games. I guess if you've got a character that can reliably hit on 2s, then I think Quake Bolts is not overrated at all, right? Like I have a Tech Marine that has a 24-inch bolter and he can move 6. Yeah, so you basically like have a 30-inch on a 2-up, you Quake Bolts. And a few weeks ago, when we played Ultramarines, I Quake Bolted Gilliman, and then my Leviathan Dreadnought ripped him to shreds. Twice, actually, because he came back to life, right? And I think against Andrew's Knights, we got Quake Bolts off multiple times. I think if you're running Eliminators or a Tech Marine, Quake Bolts can be really good. I guess it's not so good if you don't have like a character with a 2-up ballistic skill which you don't have here that you can throw it on. But yeah, I mean, maybe in this list Athdaroth, because he has a way of giving a melee unit +2 to hit, or +1 to hit, sorry, he has a way of giving a range unit +1 to hit. And obviously he's the Warlord, so he gives the Sanguinary Guard +1 to hit if they're within 6. It's not bad. I like my Quake bolts though. I guess in my list I think it works really well. Why you gotta pick on Bobby G, John? Because Colin plays Ultramarines. That's why I gotta pick on Bobby G. Anytime I play Colin's Ultramarines, I have a vendetta against them. I think it's because in 8th edition when aggressors could fire twice if they stayed still, and Ultramarines had that rule where like they always counted as of staying still. So he had like aggressors who average 9 shots per model, are able to fire twice, so that gives them 18 bolter shots per model, and he had 18 of them in his list. So 18 times 18. I actually can't do 18 in my head, but it must be like 350, right? 18 times 18. 324. So just, and aggressors were what, like 35 points per model? I think? Maybe 45 points per model? So 45 times 18. Yeah, so he's got from 800 points, he had 324 bolter shots, and they're minus 1 AP, of course, because they're Ultramarines and they're in Tactical Doctrine, and he's near Guilliman, so he's re-rolling all the hits, and he's re-rolling ones for wounds. And I remember starting that game against Colin, telling me that he had I think he said he had 590 bolter shots per turn, and I was like, DTM was saying that you need 200 and some shots to kill a scrapjet. Well, apparently, Colin's list like that would just... We basically had to wait 10 minutes every time he fired a squad of aggressors because he had about 1 million dice to roll, and then he re-rolled all of them. I like to pick on Ultramarines when I can now. I'm so glad they changed that because that was so broken. And then when he added Eradicators to that as well, it was just it was absolutely horrific. Okay. So, 4 fast-moving jump units, the 2 dreadnoughts. We've kind of lost the whirlwind, but we've gone back to infiltrators. We get the 2 incursors for forward deploy. We get the sanguinary priest to get us into assault doctrine earlier. We get Astrath to get whatever auras or litanies that we need up on our Forlorn Fury Death Company or not. And then we've got a librarian with a null zone, and he's kind of a smashy librarian-ish. I find this librarian a little bit of a tough pill to swallow because there's a lot of variance in this, I guess, because you're null zoning only on a 7, and then your Astrath's litanies are only going off on 3s, because Astrath's litanies should really only go off on 2s. He is the main chaplain for the Blood Angels, but for whatever reason they didn't give him that rule. He still does litanies on 3s. But in essence, everything about this list is good, right? These are all strong units. There's synergies here. Astrath obviously gives the Death Company a lot of synergy. You can synergize with the Sanguinary Guard. Astrath does have that 4 damage axe, which arguably I think is the most damaging weapon that we can have. Because I guess it would be strength 7, 4 damage with Mantra of Strength up. And Null Zone Librarian with reroll charges is obviously pretty strong as well. Let me just answer a comment or two. Speaking of 1 million dice, have any of you guys played against the new Speed Freaks? Yeah, 3 times bike squads and the 2 Jacket Jets put out 400 shots that I've had to sit through. I haven't played against that. I did play a horrific orc list. Orcs do get a horrific amount of shooting. But no, I haven't played against the 3 bike squad orc list. I've heard it's good, but I haven't played it. I still think I prefer a Chief Librarian with Psychic Mastery, but I know the points are tight. Yeah, Psychic Mastery helps a lot with Null Zone. And that's my one concern with this list. I mean, I like it, but at tournaments, I don't like litanies that cast on 3s because I feel they're not reliable, and I don't like psychic powers that cast. I mean, even psychic on a 6 in tournaments has it's let me down. So Chief Lib, even I think in one of my games recently, even Psychic on a 5 with a reroll has let me down. So Psychic on a 7 with it, I don't like it. But I mean, it's just my opinion. I think it's strong. But I mean, you know, Reziel, you're in the chat, right? And for example, you have a big problem with deep striking and then making a charge. You know, like, so if you think about it, a deep strike and a charge, is that much difference from a litany going off in a 3? I mean, they're the same probability, right? Like, an 8-inch deep strike charge with a reroll is 65%, a litany going off in a 3 is 66%. I mean, there's like 1% difference in there, right? But like, you know, it's just something to consider. I like all the units in this list. I just don't particularly like litanies on a 3 and psychic powers on 6s and 7s. And I think for 150 points, honestly, I think Astras should probably be able to do litanies on the 2. I don't, you know, he is like our named chaplain, right? Like, they do give him 3 litanies. It's like, hey, you can have 3 litanies, but you can only cast them on 3s. Yeah. You take slightly more risks than me, Steel Rain. Well, that's good. That's good to know. Good to know that I'm not just spouting crap. Okay, so OBSEC holding, we're going to go 8.5 from what we've got here. Anti-infantry horde, we get 2 dreadnoughts that can definitely kill some hordes. I guess you're going to get 16 cavalry shots, potentially like 2d6 frag missiles. You've got Sanguinary Guard bolters in there. So there's a little bit of anti-horde. Much better than our last list. I'm going to say like 7.5. Maybe even an 8. Yeah, I mean, if the Sanguinary Guard are positioned well, that would be 28 shots, because it's 14 Sanguinary Guards. So, yeah, let's say an 8. Anti-vehicle monster, I think we're in good shape. How many 3 damage weapons we got in this list? So Astaroth has 1, the Librarian has 1, and you've mastercrafted the Force Axe, right? So it's like D3 plus 1 in the axe, so minimum 2, so we'll include that. We got 5 Thunderhammers, so that gives us 7. We got 6 Infernal Pistols, that gives us 13. And then I guess the Dreadnoughts bringing basically 2 each. So it's about 17 3 damage weapons. You know what? That's exactly how many 3 damage weapons or more I have in my list at the moment, Steel Rain. So 17 3 damage weapons. We're gonna say 9.5 here. Maybe it was a tiny bit generous on that last list on 9.5. Maybe it should be a 9. I like, you know, I've said for a while you need 10 3 damage or more weapons. Having 17 of them puts you in a really good situation, right? Mobility-wise, I mean, the Dreadnoughts aren't mobile, but kind of everything else is. Then Cursors obviously can play guerrilla tactics and stuff to have good mobility. So I'm going to say a 9, maybe an 8.5, 9, 8.5, both. Yeah, I'd say 8.5. I suppose you could be a little bit more mobile if you drop the Dreadnoughts, but I don't think you need to, and because those Dreadnoughts can still move their full profile on 1s, I think you're fine. We don't have Fight Lasts anymore. We do have Adonai, which is kind of inconsequential. We do have the 3 units for actions. We do have 17 3 damage weapons. We are starting with 9 CP. I really think starting with this many CP, I wish there was something else we could spend some CP on, Steel Rain. Like, I always think spending CP before the game can help a lot. Like, could we take Rites of War and the Sanguinary Priest? Like, I would, if that means that at some point during the game, your Death Company or your Sanguinary Guard are going to be OBSEC, or a Dreadnought's going to be OBSEC, would that be a good CP to spend? Someone complained that I start games with too little CP, right? But, like, I think it's valuable to spend some of your CP before the game. Like, I started many games with like 6, and I think that's probably a step too far, but like starting the game with 8 is totally fine, right? -1 damage reduction is a 33% instant reduction to D3. think -1 damage is a 66% damage reduction to D3, right, Captain Rylo? Because oh no, you're right. 30. I thought you were meaning D3, not damage 3. My bad. I use so much CP in game. I think you guys are crazy for not. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think my list at the moment is starting with 8, but starting with 9 is fine. So, do you know what? Even Teeth, like, why not Teeth of Terror on the Sanguinary Priest? 8 attacks, weapon skill 2, damage 2. It's not like he's the chief apothecary and you need to keep him alive, right? I would either put Rites of War or Teeth of Terror on that Sanguinary Priest. I mean, why not? You said you're a risk taker, then take some risks, huh? This reminds me of the scene in Back to the Future where he's like, "Are you Chicken McFly?" Another big side of getting the chance for first strike is its pros or cons. I stand by having 1 deep strike melee threat in any Blood Angels list. Yeah, I think I like having a deep strike threat. I think some of the top players have used deep strike threats to win tournaments and stuff with Blood Angels. Even if they start everything on the board and then Wings of Fire something off to keep the opponents guessing, right? Using CP before the game on relics often gives much more per CP as a relic. Is there in every phase and turn for that 1 CP spent, but yeah, 6 is a bit low. Yeah, I think that's my point, Peter. So, yeah, we're all going to think of Back to the Future quotes now, where we bully Steel Rain into picking up a warlord trait or a relic on the Sanguinary Priest. Okay, but yeah, overall specialization. Then you get Soul Warden, and you've got a 6 shrug, you've got good CP, you've got good 3 damage weapons, you get units for actions, you got the 1 deny. So the only thing you're missing here is Fight Last. So really you can probably get a 9. I don't think we can't really take off much more for that, I think. So this is a strong list, but there is risk in it. But more risk if you would just take the damn relic on the Sanguinary Priest. But yeah, no, I think it's fine. I would like you to try Quake Bolts though, but I mean, I guess if you don't think it's worth it, you don't think it's worth it. It's so sad that like Sanguinary Guard don't get a Sergeant, right? Because a Sanguinary Guard Sergeant would be so good for Quake Bolts. You know, like being near the Warlord, getting that +1 to hit, it would have been so nice. Teeth of Terror would be a great 1 CP send on the Priest, if not armor. Yeah, I think the right call for the Priest is to go offensive Highland Phoenix. He doesn't survive anyway with armor, like it doesn't really help him. So if you're gonna buff the Priest, go offensive with him, give him Teeth of Terror, and just go in. You get like 8 attacks on weapon skill 2, and you're like strength 5 -2 damage. You know, he can basically kill like a whole squad of like, I guess like intercessors or whatever by himself, probably, right? Or something of equivalent strength. Because against like a squad of intercessors, he's got 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. They're -2, so they're saving on 5s, or if it's turn 3 or onwards, they're saving on 6s. So really, you're going to have to make like 6 5-up saves or 6 6-up saves, right? You know, that's a lot of damage for a friggin' priest, right? I have a lot of custodes in my meta. Giving the Sanguinary Priest Vision of Death has helped a lot. I mean, yeah. That's why I was saying the other thing you could do is Rites of War on that priest. I think Rites of War is a stronger trait for like the OBSEC part of it, as opposed to Vision of Death. Vision of Death brings a little bit of survivability, right? But if you've got big units of melee that are going to be jumping onto objectives, giving them OBSEC is generally going to be pretty good as well. Alright, let's get on to list 3 for today. And this is going to be by Jones. I haven't seen Jones in the chat, so unfortunately it seems like he's missed the stream, but hopefully he'll catch it on the replay. Alright, so it's a battalion, and it's also starting on 9 CP. And we have Commander Dante. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, actually, he's not the Warlord, and I don't think he should be your Warlord at the moment. I don't think he's strong enough. We have the Primaris Chaplain on a bike, who I guess is now, is this right, 150 points? Yeah, because he's gone up 10 points. Artisan of War, Mantra of Strength, Canticle of Hate, Adamantium Mantle, Angel Exemplar Armor, and Domitus Wiserator. So this is the Chaplain on the bike that just about everybody is running, apparently, except me, because I like the Chapter Master on the bike, but this is a very good survivable Chaplain who can throw out some great auras, can do some buffing, can also be perfect for Angel Sacrifice. That was the other thing I was trying to say. When we have the Sanguinary Priest, who is the Chief of Apothecary and the Selfless Healer, and he comes in at 155 points. Okay. Troop-wise, we got 5 Assault Intercessors, we got 5 Incursors, and I guess this app is just throwing extra shit in here that we don't really need. And then we got 5 Intercessors with bolt rifles. I mean, Intercessors with bolt rifles are fine. I just think they're not. I'd rather find 5 more points and have another squad of Incursors because they're better at the end of the game. Why not both? I think the reason to not do both Reziol was only because Steel Rain was saying that he was desperate to start with really high CP. But Rites of War and Visage of Death together also can be very good. But you want Canticle of Hate over Chapter Master rerolls? I mean, I guess that's fair enough. If that's the way that you like to play, I guess it gives a bit more reliability to your Deep Strike. But the thing is, if you're again, it comes back to, I guess, in this case, he's gone for Wiserator, but a lot of people actually don't go for that as the Warlord trait, right? They go for Gift of Foresight. So if you're going Gift of Foresight on that Chaplain, then you're in the same situation where you're only going to get your litany off on a 3+. So I don't know. I think I prefer going for Gift of Foresight on, like, if I was gonna run a Chaplain on a bike over a Chapter Master on a bike, I'd probably run him with Gift of Foresight, because I think that the strong play there is the unkillable Angel Sacrifice sort of play. Alright, we got Death Company with jump packs, and it's got 1 Thunder Hammer and 1 Infernal Pistol at 135 points. It's pretty cheap now, the Death Company, right? 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, both with Macroplasmas and Onslaughts. I'm gonna complain about these for a year, same as I complained about the Sanguinary Guard going up in points. Redemptors did not need to go up 10 points, same as Sanguinary Guard didn't need to go up 2 points last year, but that's what we've got. We then have a 5-man squad of Sanguinary Guard, mix of axes and swords, another 5-man squad, mix of axes of swords, 5 Vanguard Veterans, Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, 4 Bolter Inceptors, interesting number. Not sure why you would go with 4 over 3, but okay, 4 Bolter Inceptors, and Eliminators with the Las Fusils, and the Sergeant with the Carbine and the Quake Bolts, and that is 2,000 points. Okay, so Eliminators and Inceptors. Jump units wise, it's 2 Sanguinary Guard of 5, Vanguard Veteran of 5, Death Company of 5, the 2 Redemptors, Incursors, Assault Intercessors, and then Dante, Chaplain on a bike, and Sanguinary Priest. I mean, these 3 characters alone are a lot of points, right? You know, you have 470 points in characters here. That's kind of crazy. I'm trying to think what I'm spending on characters at the moment. Like 405. So yeah, 470 points on characters it's a lot, I guess. The troops overall are fine. I'd rather see the 3rd squad of Incursors, so that's fine. And then it's 4 5-man jump units. And I think my problem with this is, like, I don't like Sanguinary Guard of 5. 5-man. Like, I think 5-man bounces off enemies. I think if you want to run Sanguinary Guard and you want them to be really effective in lots of games, I think you need 7 of them. So was gonna say, like, the only leeway you've really got on this list is the Inceptors. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just personal opinion. Like, we've talked about this a lot in the channel, and I think most people agree that 5-man Sangre Guard just have too much of a chance of just bouncing off the enemy and not dealing enough damage. I mean, if you think about it, early in the game, I guess Seller's asking to explain why you would need 7. So if you talk about early in the game, 5 Sangre Guard can get 25 attacks, right? Hitting on 3s, so you make maybe like 18 hits. If you're up against something really nasty, you potentially, let's use those bikes for example, the Custode bikes. You only wound them on 4s because they're able to transhuman. So you end up only doing, like, let's say 9 against them. They're able to save on a 4-up because they're Custodes bikes and they've got a 4-up save or a 4-up invulnerable save. So it's only 9, so they fail 4 or 5 of them. Let's say they fail 5 of them. You kill 2 bikes. So 5 Sangre Guard jump in. That's a 160 point model. They do kill 2 bikes. That's about, 2 bikes I think are like 160, 170 points themselves. But then they're 100% dead. They just get killed. Whereas, like, another 2 is 10 more attacks maybe. Yeah, I mean, Captain Rylo's right. It's 10 more attacks, and potentially you get a little bit of luck there and you kill the 3rd bike, and then maybe there's only 1 bike left or something and it's not enough to come back to you. It's also more bolter shots before when you charge. It's also better for Auspex scan. Like, I played a Tempest Scion list where the guy was just dropping down squad after squad of Tempest Scions It was actually horrific how many squads of Tempest Scions the guy had in the tournament. And Auspex scan is like going to be huge. I mean, Auspex scan with 5 guys is like meh. Auspex scan with 7 feels like it's probably worth using. I have tried smaller squads of Sangre Guard recently. In fact, actually, after that tournament, I tried running a list with 2 squads of 5 Sangre Guard, and 1 bite dies in the first round of combat because 3 hits to kill them with 2 damage weapon. Yeah, that's true. But I do think that you can't run, and then if you come up against -1 damage enemies as well, like Plague Burst Crawlers are a good example. Like, let's say you put 7 Sangre Guard with the Shock Assault and Savage Echoes into Plague Burst Crawlers, right? So you get 35 attacks. You hit on 3s, you only wound on 4s. The Plague Burst Crawlers have a 5-up, so they save on 5-up. So sorry, that's times 0.666. And then Plague Burst Crawlers only take 1 damage from Sangre Guard. So 7 Sangre Guard only managed to do 7.6 damage to a Plague Burst Crawler. I mean, let's say you had Chapter Master rerolls on them. So go back to the start and they had the Chapter Master rerolls, or they were next to the Warlord and they get +1 to hit. Then you're talking about they do 11 damage. So 7 Sangre Guard with the buff from being next to the Warlord and a reroll 1 will do 11 damage to Plague Burst Crawler. Plague Burst Crawler has 12 wounds, right? So I guess if you could do a single point of damage against them, you would potentially kill them. But I know you're saying Plague Burst Crawlers can often be ignored. What about Fetid Bloat Drones? What about Mythic Blight Haulers? Those things will absolutely chew through Blood Angels melee units. I forget. I don't know if you come up against Fetid Bloat Drones very often, but they have a 6-inch heroic intervention strat that you need to be aware of as well. But if they're running the Flesh Mower, they basically get 12 attacks. This is a 140 point model, right? 12 attacks hitting on 3s, strength 7, -2, 2 damage. I've seen Colin run 3 of these and just charge them straight away. And we just said that 7 Sangre Guard will only do 7 damage against these. If you leave these fucking things alive with 1 wound, expect your entire squad of 200 plus points of Sanguinary Guard to be alive. To be alive. I don't expect any of them to be alive. Is what I was going to say. So the bloat drones are horrific. When I play against Colin, he usually runs 3 of them: 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, 3 bloat drones, and then sometimes 3 Blight Haulers as well. And those things are fucking nasty in combat too. I can't fit all those together with my character's troops and vehicles. Got to pick and choose. Well, Colin runs a vehicle heavy list, Rezio, or he did a couple of times, and yeah, that's the sort of shit that he's running. You can definitely fit 3 Flesh Mowers and 3 Plague Burst Crawlers in a list. And remember that Strength 7 will be wounding on 2s because of the -1 Toughness aura, and rerolling 1s because Plague Weapons. Yeah, I mean, this is why I think 5-man Sanguinary Guard don't work. I haven't even played Death Guard much with a 5-man squad of Sanguinary Guard, but trust me, it's not a situation you want to be in at all, I guess. So 7-man Sanguinary Guard is what you need. So, I mean, a long explanation on why I don't like these 2 5-man squads. 3 damage weapons in this list. We got an Infernal Pistol in Dante. We got the Crozius on this guy. We then have a Thunderhammer and an Infernal Pistol, that gives us 4. We get 2 Redemptors here, so that gives us another 4, so that's 8. And then I guess 2 Las Fusils. So we have 10 3 damage weapons. It's kind of okay. I've said 10 is okay before, but 10 nowadays feels a little bit low, maybe. Yeah, so I don't overly like this. This is a good example, actually, of a list that's going to struggle into Death Guard, for example. Like, this list into Death Guard, you're going to need to get so much work out of those Redemptors, and Entropy Cannons and Plague Burst Crawlers can chew those Redemptors up. So this would be a tough list. This would be a tough list to play into Death Guard, actually. I like Thunderhammers on the Vanguard Veteran Sergeant. I mean, we talked about that earlier in the stream. I don't know if I feel there's a huge amount of bonus on a 4-man Inceptor squad over a 3-man Inceptor squad. Have I lost to Colin's Death Guard recently? I suppose not, Rezio. But I don't necessarily think that Colin doesn't care as much as I care about winning. If your opponent is savvy, you'll never get to res with the priest. That's pretty much why I dropped my priest, David. That's why I don't run Sanguinary Priest myself. Far too many times I felt like I couldn't get as much value out of the priest anymore. Cellular says thank you. Do you know what? I've been building Sanguinary Guard myself, Sellers, because and do you know what? It's interesting because I recently talked to Steel Rain, actually, who was the last list. We actually said it's okay to put 1 Power Fist into your Sanguinary Guard now, because there's so much like Ramshackle and -1 damage and minus strength and stuff. So having like 1 Power Fist in a Sanguinary Guard squad isn't actually bad. And I ran that for a little while as well. I actually don't mind having a Power Fist in the Sanguinary Guard, but I guess this is a tough list. Like, I don't know what you would be changing here. I understand the reason to date Dante along with this chaplain is because you've got 2 great units for Angel Sacrifice, and if Dante sacrifices himself and dies, you can still fight. I mean, that's kind of why some people do that. But 475 points on characters feels like a lot. I mean, I probably had 475 points on characters. I stopped running the Sanguinary Priest when he put him up to 155 points, and I would have been running like a chaplain, a captain, which is the same points, 160, and then I would also be running like my chief librarian, who's 140. So I was running this, and I started struggling with it. I honestly started struggling. Like, I think it was last year. I think it was last chapter approved. They put those points up, and I lost like 6 games. Maybe not 6 games in a row, but I lost like six games out of 8 or something. And I was pulling my hair out, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I think the Sanguinary Priest has to be run very, very tactically. And I think if you want to run the Sanguinary Priest, you probably want to double down more on jump units in this list. Like, you can make the Sanguinary Priest work as a chief librarian, as a chief apothecary. If you want to make him work as a chief apothecary, you need like lots of big squads of guys, you know, like 8-man Sanguinary Guards, 8-man Vanguard Veterans, for example. Enough where there's always going to be models left to get reses, and enough where there's going to be plenty of chances for you to roll those 6-up shrugs, right? -1 damage across the board is always a consideration. If you've got a Storm Surge, sure, you don't care. Yeah, I think -1 damage across the board is really important to consider now. You know, Custodes could be running some Dreadnoughts. Telemons, for example, are going to be... Telemons with -1 damage, if they turn off your rerolls, that's going to be horrific to deal with. And I guess that's... You know, we talked about that that last list that was all the Lightning Claws. Well, if he comes into a Custodes player and they just turn off rerolls against the unit, those Lightning Claws are going to feel a hell of a lot weaker. And that's probably one of the reasons why I said in that list, like, I think it's important to have some variance. It's always important, I think, to have variance. I don't like running units that are all just going to do the exact same thing, so that if there is a way for the opponents to counter them, they can counter them. Space Marines are born to die, they don't need medics. Yeah, and Blood Angels, they could usually just fall to the Black Rage. Anyway. Typically what I would say is, if you're going to go double Dreadnought, I think you can still make the jump part of your list work. But I think you would have... Because double Dreadnought is 390 points. Inceptors and Eliminators is like 245. Add that to the 390. It's like 650. So you get 650 points of like support, or fire support, I guess you would say, and 475 points of characters, and then 300 points of squads. It doesn't really leave that much points for jump units, does it? You know, you get 600 points of jump units, or you get 600 points of close combat units, I guess. And Blood Angels are kind of best at close combat, so you want to be pushing that agenda a little bit harder, I think, Jonesy. Yeah, or Jonesy. We had to shoot Custodes in 8th. I'm not running into Custodes in 9th. I ran into them a few weeks ago, David, and I don't remember if he tabled me, but I was in a horrific situation. I got wrecked by Custodes in the new Codex. I got wrecked, I think, after throwing my whole army at like 1 or 2 units. It was just bad. Okay. Obsec Holding, I'm going to give an 8 because I would have liked to see more Phobos units. I've only got 1 squad of Phobos, and I think they're the best right now. Anti-infantry Horde, well, we got 20 Stormbolter shots, we got 2 Redemptors bringing out a bit, we've got Inceptors. The Anti-horde firepower is probably the strongest we've seen today. Anti-vehicle monster, so we only got those 10 3-damage weapons. We got 20 jump guys or close combat guys. I mean, I think it's not bad. I'd like to see more 3-damage weapons. I think I'm going to go with a 9 just because lack of 3 damage or more weapons across the list is a little bit of a concern. Mobility wise, I think we're going to score it the exact same as the last list because it's similar in that it's got the 2 Dreadnoughts. Then we don't have Fight Last. We don't have Denies. We do have units for actions. We're kind of okay on 3 damage weapons, just a little bit lower. We do have 9 CP, was it? 9 CP, which makes me think that we could possibly spend another one on something. But I mean, we already got Quake Bolts in there. Yeah, I don't see many options. I mean, a mad option would be to give the Vanguard veteran sergeant a Thunderhammer and Mastercrafter or something. But yeah, I don't see many options for pre-game spend. I guess that's one of the things that the named characters kind of take away is your options for pre-game spend. I wish our named character warlord traits and stuff were better. And then protection against mortal wounds. Well, you've got a 6-up from the Sanguinary Priest, but it's not huge. And nothing that will affect your armor. So I'm going to say like an 8. So I think Jones's list is not bad. I think the main thing to figure out is like, how are you going to change it so that your Sanguinary Guard are larger? I mean, if this was me, I'd probably be happy, let's say, if I dropped one squad of Sanguinary Guard and made like a 7 Sanguinary Guard and 8 Vanguard veterans, and maybe, I guess you would leave the Death Company. Yeah, I actually don't know how you fix this list. But I feel like you need... to find some points. The other option I suppose you could do is what I was in a similar situation. If you did drop your Sanguinary Priest and take a Tech Marine instead with Soul Warden or something, so you've got a bubble of mortal wound protections, you could give that Tech Marine Quake Bolts as well, so you've got the ability to give all your other models that he can see within 30 inches +1 to hit in close combat. You get 55 points back there. You could drop one of these Inceptors, that would give you 95 points. 95 points is basically 3 Sanguinary Guard, because 3 Sanguinary Guard are 96, right? So you could make one of the Sanguinary Guard a 7, one of them a 6. You would just need to find 1 point somewhere. You could probably drop like a Lightning Claw, 1 Lightning Claw, drop it for like a Chain Sword. Oh, sorry, you already had Quake Bolts and Eliminator Sergeant, but still... I mean, the Tech Marine would give you another 3 damage weapon, because he's got that. And it would add 2 more to your Sanguinary Guard. Or I guess you could add 3 more Vanguard Vets or something. Or like... I think you could add 3 more Vanguard Vets and a Hammer. So I think... Or the other option, I guess, would be to drop Dante. Like, Dante for 165 points... You could make a cheaper Chapter Master, you totally could. Or maybe you could just... If you're not running Dante as your Warlord and you're running him for an Angel Sacrifice character, do people think he's worth 165 points? I genuinely don't know, because... I don't think Dante's a survivable character, right? So like 165 points for a single Angel Sacrifice and then maybe being able to fight on death? Is that worth 165 points? I mean, 165 points is 5 more Sanguinary Guard with an Infernal Pistol. Like, what would you rather, Dante or 5 more Sanguinary Guard with an Infernal Pistol? Or a cheap Captain and buff up some of your Sanguinary Guard, you know? You already got the Chaplain on the bike as the big Angel Sacrifice type character. And I guess I know that some people have run that at tournaments and been reasonably successful, but I think it's pretty high skill cap to do that right. I think with the new missions we might be going back to minimum size unit style of game. I suppose yes and no. Maybe not so much if you're doing engage on all fronts and stuff, right? Okay, but anyway, so I think Jones's list is at like 42. You still think Dante is very good. Okay, I appreciate the feedback. Wasn't so sure. But I think that kind of covers it for this week then. 3 decent lists. I hope I made some good suggestions on all of them. I've come to like him because he saves so much on CP with the -1 to hit, 2+ save, and tons of attacks with a Relic Blade. Yeah. When you compare him against Trajan Valoris, though, for Trajan being 5 points cheaper, Jim, it feels like Dante's in a pretty rough situation, doesn't it? I don't know when we're going to get an update, but I think Valoris being cheaper than Dante is kind of a joke. you know, because it's like you look at Valoris, he's got better strength and toughness, he's got more wounds. I guess leadership 11 doesn't really matter, but his axe is -3/3 damage. He's got a 5-up shrug. He basically gets 2 additional warlord traits and a command point. He gives the aura of Custode's Core within 6 re-rolling. Once per battle, you can fight. At the end of the fight phase, it can fight again, so you can fight twice with your 6 attacks and your 3 damage weapon. When a saving throw is failed for this model, you can just change the damage characteristic of it to 0. After an enemy is fought, you can interrupt for free. You can perform horror interventions within 6. Each time he makes an attack, you can reroll his hits. And while he's on the battlefield, every time you use a stratagem, you can roll a d6 and a 5+, you refund the command point. Once per battle, you can change your stances. And that's 5 points less than Dante. That's why I question if Dante is good at 165 points. But okay. I mean, when Dante gets a Primaris model, I'm expecting his data sheet to just, I'm expecting it to be it's going to be on 2 pages in the codex. There's going to be so many rules, and he's going to be 120 points, right? Once per game, he's going to be able to 3d6 charge and all sorts of nonsense. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I did say, I texted a few people before tonight's stream. Let me just check. No one has replied. So I'm not going to be live tomorrow night. I think we will have our normal live game a week Monday. So sorry about that. But it will let me get a bit more time to focus on the video I want to make for this week, which is talking about the new maps and all the secondaries for the new maps. So hopefully I can give you some information on that for Friday. So I'm expecting 7 wounds and a 7 attacks. That's all. Are you not expecting a 3 damage weapon as well? Dante is not your warlord. Yeah, Dante is not your warlord in this list for sure. But I would play him as my warlord if he got all the abilities that Trajan Valoris gets. And yeah, thank you so much for watching tonight, guys. Life RPG, Sellers, Knucking Futs, Mark, Steel Rain, Reziel, everyone that's always here, David, DTM. You guys' support means a lot. Really appreciate it. And thanks to all the members as always. And yeah, if there is any video requests or suggestions, please just, hit me up on Discord, send me a DM or anything, and I'll see what I can do. I've got a few ideas for the next few weeks' videos, but after that I'm kind of free. So if there is something that you guys want me to dive into, new models to look at, anything like that, you can easily send me a suggestion. Have a great rest of your Sunday night, and I'll probably catch you guys, I think maybe yeah, I'll try and catch you guys sometime through the week, and then if not, you'll see my video on Friday. So, by the blood, are we made strong? Peace.